Good morning, everyone. Welcome once more to the Aurum podcast, and it's so good to have you here. Uh, today is the middle of the month, 16th of October, 2021, and we are so glad that you could be able to join us here at the Aurum podcast, where we discuss all matters that relate to the workplace. I'm your host, Anthony Kuria, and with me, I have some very special friends, business and personal friends. I have my co host, Martha Thuku, who is a HR specialist working with one of the leading NGOs here in Kenya, and another very good friend of mine, professionally and personally, Mr. Augustus Kioko, a risk specialist working with one of the big insurance companies here in Kenya. Karibuni sana.
Asante.
Yes, as you know, the Aurum podcast is hosted by Aurum Consultants, and we are a HR, human resource and risk advisory consultancy. And our focus is we focus closely on difficult human capital and business challenges. Today, as we have been doing this month, we want to discuss the employee experience, especially as it relates to communication. Now, let me start with the HR expert. Martha, mazungumzo huwa mashida kwa kazi. Hebu tell us just a bit, just your own opening remarks on this discussion about communication, especially from an employee perspective. What's your take?
Thank you, Anthony, and welcome everyone. So today we are talking about communication, and mostly, especially what is employee experience. Employee experience is the things they go through within the organization from the time of recruitment to the time of exit. And whatever happens in between can really build or break. And that's why HR managers are expected to facilitate a positive environment that will create a positive employee experience. Now, one of those things that need to happen is effective communication strategies. And without communication, and it's in various forms. It's a policy about communication. Is a policy that leads to, if there is a grievance, how can that be? What is the process? Everything needs to come out as far as communication is concerned. How are the policies communicated? How are the relationships communicated? What are the reporting lines? All the small things that help promote a good employee experience, and communication is one of the major things. And I'll let Augustine kind of chip in from there. Thank you.
Yes, Juan Augustus, from your perspective, actually, let me go to the topic that I wanted to discuss today. I mean, amongst the few points that came into my head as we were preparing for this, from your experience, you've been in the corporate sector. Your career has been there for a while. Why is communication such a challenge in organizations?
Thank you, Anthony and Martha, and especially for the warm welcome. I think once you are introduced like that, you have to up your game in what you are going to say. The price has already been set, but basically, let me say, communication is a simple subject yet very complex. And since the creation of the world, man has been struggling on that area of communication. A lot of battles in this world, a lot of wars. You hear of World War First, World War Second, all these things had everything to do with communication. Yet, and the other day, I was asking somebody, why do you think we still teach communication in our universities. We have PhD in communication. Does it mean that people don't know how to communicate? That we have to keep teaching, we have to keep learning, we have to keep instructing, and nothing changed, even from the lowest level of education to the highest level of education, PhD, to the lowest. When you went to, nowadays there's PP1, PP2. The basic thing that is taught is communication, and it never changes. And you are taught all these things. So it's a challenge, it's a reality, it's a most basic thing. We do communicate every day. We are communicating here on this podcast. That's what we are doing. We are communicating to our audience. Others may understand, others may not understand, and I like what Martha is saying, effective communication. It is not just communication. The communication has to be effective for it to become communication. And back to your question, why is it difficult? What we do every day in my workplace, what we do every day, we communicate. We communicate to clients, we communicate to our colleagues, we communicate to management, we communicate to government, and it comes with its fair share of challenges, and we don't always seem to get it right. But I think the challenge is there are many challenges. It's not one, and it can also be, the challenge can also be barriers why people cannot be able to decode what is being said to them or what they are saying to the other person. Some of them may be education, background, literacy level. Sometimes it can be organizational problem, if staff do not know what to communicate or how to communicate and when to communicate. And that's what, Mother was saying in introductory remarks, that the communication must have a strategy. Organization must have a strategy on how they are going to communicate, right from the time they onboard their staff all the way to the time they leave, or even in the course of business. What are they communicating? When are they supposed to communicate? Who are they supposed to communicate with? What to say and not what to say? What are the reporting lines? Because those reporting lines is all about communication. Who do I communicate to? Or even before I communicate to client, who do I communicate to in my reporting line? So if those things are not clear, they become a challenge, and it becomes an organizational problem when staff, I'm sure all of us have called organizations, certain organization, and we are left with a bad taste because of how you are communicated, or even people you are communicating are not clear what they should say. So one of the biggest challenges is organization having no clear plan in terms of communication and laying the strategies thereof. Yeah.
Wow,
And
wow,
maybe,
wow, wow.
and maybe I can add
Yes, Martha.
what Augustine has said. And from a workplace perspective, what for me I have come to realize can make communication a challenge, a very simple thing. I like how Augustine has brought communication very easy, like it's a day-to-day kind of thing that we do. And you find we cannot communicate when we are having interpersonal issues,
Correct.
where even emotional issues. Augustine has talked about organization culture, and even perceptions. There's even this thing of competition. What can I call it? I don't know.
Rivalry.
I don't know how. Yeah, that rivalry that really hinders communication. You can even find accusations in the organization, but just because of the perception, they become true. And
Yes.
so even that, there cannot be communication. So it just become a one-ended kind of thing. And really that comes out as an organization culture, where maybe some people are strong and what they say is true, and it cannot be otherwise.
Yeah.
So those are for me the issues that day to day that happens. Tony, I meet with you, and just because of the way you think about me or your perception towards me, whatever I say cannot penetrate.
Yes.
So can you imagine if you are my manager
Yes.
and we are working together and
Yes.
your perception is what is driving even my performance appraisal from your end.
Mm-hmm.
So you will never be objective.
Okay.
So a staff like that finds like they're in a very intoxic environment, and there's no way that kind of environment can create teamwork, things that really should be happening in the organization. Those things can't happen when there are such kind of small, and let me call them little foxes
Yes.
that hinder communication. Thank you.
Wow, wow, Matthew, you and Augustus have brought up some very interesting matters. When I was wondering about the challenge why communication is such a challenge in organizations. The hints that both you and Augustus have brought up, the issues to do with culture within a company, issues to do with interpersonal relationships within a firm. How do you relate with your coworkers? How do you separate personal from official, matters? How do you how do how is the hierarchy supporting communication? You've made me remember a story I was being told by a friend of mine this past last weekend. Let me call it last weekend because today is Saturday, and we were talking with him, and he was telling me the way one time he worked outside the country. I think he was working in the United States for about a year. He was employed, working in this place, and he realized that communication there is very different. The culture, because of culture of the workplace and the American working culture, communication was very different. For example, uh, Martha, you and I are working in the same company. Let's assume you're my boss, or let's assume it's you and somebody else, and you've decided, Tony, I'm going to invite you and your spouse to come and have dinner in my place. So this friend of mine is a Kenyan. He's from Kenya. So if you invite me to come to dinner at 8, from where we come from in Africa, coming at 8. It means I can come at 7:30, I can come
Or
quarter to
9.
8, I come at 8, I can come at 8:15. So it is not strictly that it has to be at 8 a.m. But what he noticed is one of his one of his colleagues, an American who was working with him, when he heard that this friend of mine, this Kenyan, is being invited by the boss for dinner, the American had the perception to tell him, dude, knock the door at exactly 8. If you reach 8 or 5 to 8, wait in the car until it is 8 o'clock sharp. That's when you knock the door. And since you've been invited for dinner, and it's a 1 hour, dinner, so you knock. The door is open for you. You enter. You say hi, 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 hi. You go sit down on the dinner table. You okay, probably some small talk as jacket is removed, placed aside. Then you're invited for starters, then main meal, then dessert, small talk, 9 o'clock, shake hands, it has been good, take a hike, dinner is over. So now for him, when he invited this Mzungu, he reciprocated for this colleague of his boss, to come and visit. He told him, sir, I would like to invite you for a meal, dinner in my place. Now that you've invited me to your place, but I wanted us to do a bit the way we do it in Africa. So his American boss was like, "Oh, how do you do it?" He told him, "When you come, when you reach at my parking, whether it is 7:45, because the meal is beginning at 8. When you come, don't stay in the car.
Just come
Okay?
in.
Yes, I've
Just
invited you to come for dinner at 8. But because you've arrived 7:45, don't stay in the car to wait at 8 to come and knock. No, come, just walk in, just knock. And then, since I've invited you for dinner, I'm not in a hurry for you to leave. Because I know you have come to visit my place. It is a privilege for me to receive you. So kindly, when you come, be ready. If you want to leave at 9, okay. But even if you want to leave at 10, we have a lot to talk about. So the white boss was like, okay, you people don't respect time. I told him, no, it's not about time. We do respect time, but we respect friendships more. Okay? We respect interconnections more. So, okay, the boss decides, okay, let's drive in. But now the boss was a bit careful. He only came 5 minutes to 8. Then he knocked at 5 minutes to 8, looking a bit sheepish. Told him, oh, come in. Don't worry. No. You are my guests. It doesn't matter what you come.
yes.
So obviously the formalities of washing hands, eating starters, main course, then there is dessert. So the Kenyan friend asked his American colleague, it's almost 9, but don't be in a hurry. Do you want to run back home? You told me you respect time. No, there's no problem. So they start. So the guy was wondering, okay, what do we talk now that we have finished? Now his Kenyan friend told him, now let me show you how we talk, what we do after we have eaten. We have a cup of mixed tea, or if you want to mix coffee, whatever it is that you want, and then we talk. How are you? How did you come to America? Who are your ancestors? How did they come to America? Blah blah blah. Trust me, because of differences in culture, there was a difference in communication.
Yes.
Okay, but now because somebody had decided to deliberately let the other understand that where I come from, this is how we handle communication. Employee to employee, yes, this is not a work environment. I've invited you for dinner. You have invited me for dinner. But now, using this dinner experience, we are able to understand and communicate differently. Okay? That you don't have to be too formal. That if I've invited you for dinner at 8, if you reach at the parking at 7:45, you wait at the parking until it is 2 minutes to 8, and then you lock your door, then you lock your car, and then you walk, so that at 8 sharp is when you knock the door of the house. And then at 9 sharp, you're finished eating, I tell you goodbye. You see, there was that exchange, and so Augustus, you found me explain to Martha how workplace culture can also hinder or enhance communication in the workplace.
True.
So I was giving the experience of a Kenyan who went to America and stayed there, and the differences in culture, he realized they were not communicating effectively. Now, Augustus, let me ask you this. Now, the next topic that came into my mind is, from your perspective, what is the importance of effective communication? Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony, for that brief story. Sorry, I got distracted by some calls that were coming in. But
yes.
Effective communication, the importance, because I think we exist. We have certain goals. When talk about organization, from an organizational perspective, we have certain goals and objectives that the company has to achieve. And what the outliers, the outlier, it's the what happens in the background, what happens for these achievements, for these goals to be achieved. You are not working alone. You are working with a team.
Yes.
You are working in an organization with people with diverse cultures, with diverse thinking, with the diverse experiences and skills. And therefore, one of the importance of effective communication in an organization is that an organization is able to achieve its goals, by bringing a culture. We talked about people come from different places, but in an organization, like what your friend did by saying, let's, have a cup of coffee, or that, and I will show you how you communicate. He was trying to bring and to bridge the cultural gap, that will hinder communication, and that he was trying to bridge the gap to foster the communication. And one of the things, organization has a responsibility of bringing those cultures together in a way that they will be able to communicate in each other, such that when I tell you I need that laptop, I need that report, you don't hear otherwise. You remember there was a story. There was a story in the Bible, for those of us who read the Bible, where there was confusion. You asked for an armor, you've had something else, and you bring something else, and they could not achieve what they intended to do. So
Exactly.
similarly, in an organization, because people are at different levels of education, people are at different levels of understanding, thinking, there has to be a balance of bringing together all those to create a balance such that people working in the same team communicate to each other effectively. And as a result of effective communication, the organization is the employees are going to work as a team, where they are effectively communicating. They are going to work as a team. They are going to achieve common goal. And at the end of the day, the organization is going to achieve. Similarly, an organization must also communicate effectively to its stakeholders with and without the organization. The organization has stakeholders like Aurum. Aurum has clients, has a lot of stakeholders outside there. If you ask me what they do today, I will tell you what they do.
Yes.
And how have I known what they do? It's because you've communicated to me. When I go to your website, you are communicating. When I come to this podcast, I learn more about Aurum by what you are saying and what you are communicating to us. So therefore, they are asked to effective communication will result to company achieve its goals, because it will communicate clearly its message of products to its clients. It will also communicate effectively to its staff. Its staff will be motivated. It brings effective communication, brings clarity of vision. It brings clarity of ideas, and it brings out the teamwork. People are able to people know what they are supposed to do clearly. The staff will know what they are supposed to achieve clearly, because there are so many things that organization is going to communicate. It's going to communicate the vision. It's going to communicate goals. It's going to communicate what are we supposed to, the targets. So once that is clear, there's achievement of goals, targets, and company realizes its vision, and the staff are going to work in an organized way and a conducive way. So that means there is less friction, less conflict, and less grievances. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Augustus. That is very clear. I like the fact that you've put that good teams communicate effectively. That good, effective communication brings clarity of vision and ideas. Those are very good points to note. From your perspective, Martha, what's the important from your perspective? What is the importance of effective communications to employees?
Thank you, Anthony. And I'm sorry, my internet was having a downtime, but I'm back. So from an employee point of view, I liked the pointers that Augustine brought about teamwork. The other thing is the attitudes, people's attitudes, it is improved because when the employees are motivated because of good communication, you find that their attitude, they're talking positive about the organization. You learn that there are some people, you work in an organization, but every time you are referring to your organization, you're saying they. So they don't use the word we. And that comes in because then they don't own the organization. So even when they are talking to their friends out there, they are talking it from a very negative perspective. But when there is effective communication and everyone is happy, then it maintains a positive attitude, because everyone is well informed of what is going on. So there are sometimes management just want to hide things, and that creates an atmosphere that is not conducive for effective communication. The other thing I can say, so when you have this effective communication, people have positive attitudes, people can speak. There are some organizations you can't say. You can't.
Oh yes.
Hey, even if it's good to say to give your thoughts. It also, when you're able to speak out your mind, then you're able to innovate. Tony, I learned in organizations, there are so many people with different growth areas. I mean, they have God-given attitudes. They have God-given, what do I call it? Potential
Potential of skills.
But because you are employed as a secretary, and you're not allowed to, you're in a meeting and you can contribute and what you can say can change things, but you don't have that room to communicate. So innovation is not encouraged to organizations where there's no effective communication. So what am I saying? To increase innovation, it's good to let people communicate, let people come out, because even from where I sit, I don't know everything. So if, like, now we are here and I was listening to Augustine and I'm thinking, wow, his pointers about communication, I started writing them because I don't know everything. So once we let people talk, then we are able to pick. And then I can say, my last one, I can say it also, because of that, then people are motivated. And because of motivation, there's healthy relationships, there's healthy communication, there's healthy things going on. And then productivity comes in. So
Apologies for that.
yeah, and you find the organization now, organizations are about productivity. Organizations are about making profits and making impacts, positive impact. So if that is done, then there is no way that the organization will go wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mother. Yes, there's a bit of a disturbance in the background. Today people are working from home, so sometimes, people, there are certain home noises that come up. But I like the way you've brought it up, Martha. Wow, you and Augustus have really briefly. And if you are listening or watching us via Facebook and listening to our podcast, we would welcome your questions and comments, because right there, as Martha has said, I was writing notes on the same. I was looking at the fact that Augustus has talked about clarity of vision and ideas. Good teams communicate effectively. And Martha, you have now taken it deeper and showed us that the importance of effective communication is that if communication is carried out well in an organization, then attitudes change. That now positivity becomes more prominent, where staff, instead of saying they when commenting about their company, they're talking about we. If it's Aurum consultants, our staff are talking about we are HR and risk advisory specialists. They don't say they. It's like you are speaking on third person, Yeah, Augustus, where you're working, things are flowing. You own the company that you're working for. You talk about we are an insurance provider. Martha, you say we are, we are healthcare specialists, and this is what we do. So, if you are an entrepreneur listening to us, those are the keys, the clues to download. How do your staff relate with you? How do they download this thing? Are they always talking? Do you get the hint that they're talking about they? You're talking about the company they work for in an abstract manner. I like the fact that Martha, you've also put something very powerful about innovation and motivation. That the way you described about that secretary who is taking minutes in a company meeting, and they are jotting down furiously in shorthand probably, and a light bulb goes on their head. They have this idea. Oh, they've been mulling on these ideas from the previous meetings, and they have probably bounced them informally with their boss. But now here it's something formal. Here they are writing in shorthand. But now the question is, if the company policy does not allow that secretary who is writing in shorthand to raise her hands and say, "Excuse me," most secretaries are ladies, so "Excuse me," and they are allowed to say something, and probably what they say becomes so powerful that if the boss, if the board, if whoever it is that is in charge has the presence of mind to appreciate effective communication, they could actually use the same to be able. And I'm sure, Martha, you've had stories of very junior staff who, because they were given a chance to be able to express themselves, brought very good ideas to the table. Very good ideas to the table. I like that. I'm liking this session. I didn't realize, as Augustus said, communication is a small thing, but it's a big deal because people started to PhD to become studying communication and getting a thesis and writing something deep just about communication. Now, as we come to a close, I have one last question, one last point. Ebu, let's talk about some of the skills that we need in order to communicate effectively. If you have a few, Martha, probably you could give us a few skills that we need in order to communicate effectively.
Tony, thank you so much. And I can say the most key one is listening. Now, when I say listening, I mean active listening. You remember when we talked about hindrances of communication? You realize we talked about perceptions. So, Tony, as I said, if we are communicating now, you will hear what your perception about me.
Yes,
so you not listen to what I am saying. If we are having a discussion and you have made up your mind how you want the end of the matter, so anything I say in between, you are not listening.
It's just noise.
It's noise.
Yes.
So you can imagine that kind of communication with a manager who is not listening. That staff will always feel they were never given an opportunity to speak.
Yes.
And the manager will keep saying, we have been having many meetings.
Yes.
But
yes,
they have not been listening.
Yes.
The other thing is they could have been listening, but what is the body language? Because as I said, Tony, you have made up your mind how you want this to end.
Yes.
So even as I give my ideas,
yes.
You're just saying, but really there's nothing. So even the person you're talking to can feel the wall. And they can feel that they are not being listened to.
Yes.
And also other nonverbal things, you know.
Yes, yes.
So you know, the body language, the active listening, and then being confident of what you're saying.
Yes, very true.
Another
Confidence.
skill. Confidence is so good, because if you're not confident, then you will even not trust what you're saying. If
Exactly.
someone just came to challenge what you're saying, you'll find yourself kind of now
Yes,
mumbling, and you are very
yes,
clear what you wanted to say. And
yes.
that's why it is important, even like if it's for a meeting, it is important that you prepare, because then that gains you
Mm-hmm.
confidence. You have read your
Yes.
materials, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have your facts, you know, from 1 to 10, you know. Then the
Yes.
other thing is that when you're communicating, you're clear, you know, clarity.
Yes, you're clear.
You're clear and you're concise.
Yes.
Not if you say so many things. I learned this, I learned in the good book called the
Yes.
Bible,
Yes.
you know, where there are many words.
Yes.
Sin will never lack.
Yes.
So there are times that the words need to be minimum. You're clear,
Exactly.
you're
Uh-huh.
concise, you're
Mm-hmm.
hitting the point,
Mm-hmm.
and you find, have you listened to, you know, the very wealthy people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the ones in the, that it's called the fortune,
500.
500.
yeah. Have you ever seen them talking, or when they are asked a question, they are very brief,
Precise.
they're
Yes.
very brief, they don't have a lot to say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, so so communication is not many words.
Mm-hmm.
Communication is you develop the skill of being clear
Mm-hmm.
and concise.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
can see, Augustine, are you back? He can give
Yeah.
more.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Thank
So
you. You can hear me.
yes, we can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I was off. I don't know what happened, but I've had Mother Claire and Tony's questions, and I think it's just the same things, but I will add some skills, because, as we said, it's a skill. Communication is a skill,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why people go to school to learn it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and we learn many things, and then at some point we are told there's a graduate class or postgraduate to major in communication.
Mm-hmm.
Organizations even have created positions for corporate communications officers,
Mm-hmm.
public
Correct.
relations. You know, because everyone has realized we have a problem here. You know,
Yes.
we have a problem in the way we are communicating our products. We have a problem, you know, we are communicating our processes. You know, and therefore it becomes a skill that not
Mm-hmm.
everyone can just be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I work in a heavily in a intensive customer environment, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things, you know, a lot of things and a lot of complaints is no one communicated to me. You know, we get that word every day. No
Ah,
one, yeah, no one communicated, and we keep telling, you know, our people, you know, we could be doing, because whenever there's a complaint, you want to follow what happened or what did not happen, and you find this person or one the team member, they've not it's not a complaint because they've not done what they're supposed to do.
yes.
In the background they are doing very good work
Mm-hmm.
towards that matter, but no one knows what they are doing, because you've not communicated to the person who is supposed to
Mm-hmm.
benefit, maybe the customer. He doesn't
Mm-hmm.
know what you are doing, so he has to keep calling you and asking you, when should I get an update, or where are we on this matter? So it's a skill how to communicate, and therefore one of the greatest skills, you know,
Mm-hmm.
towards effective communication would be preparation. You know, you have to be
Mm-hmm.
prepared. You have to, what message are you giving out? You know, when we came for this podcast, I'm sure Mother has some notes somewhere. Similarly, Tony and Zipporah, everyone has some notes on communication somewhere, meaning you prepared. And that's why we are able to communicate, on this podcast very authoritatively on this subject, because we are well prepared. We've learned, we've reminded ourselves what needs to be done and what needs to be said as far as this subject is concerned. And therefore, even making a phone call, you do not just come out of anywhere and you make a phone call. You must have prepared what to say. You must have prepared in your mind, I need to call Tony because I need 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So you must be prepared in your communication. You are writing an email. What are you going to say in that email? What are you in regard to the subject you are writing about? So there has to be, where there is no preparation, there is confusion and there is a lack of clarity in the message you are trying to pass to the other person. So you have to be prepared, even the place. You don't make a call in a noisy place. Or in a matatu, which is noisy. When you decide to make a call, you look for a place that is quiet so that the other person can get your message and you can also hear their response. So preparation is very key in what you are going to communicate. Maybe you are called for a presentation, you have to prepare. Great speakers. We see very great speakers. I know just because there are people even on television, in the media, we want to listen to a certain person articulating, I know in times of COVID, we kept saying, in times of COVID, there's a lot of distorted messages, there's a lot of inconsistencies. But whenever I will hear Dr. Githinji Gitai from AMREF coming to speak about COVID, I will want to listen to him. And because I knew he was one man who articulates that subject well, and I've left with no questions because he's prepared. And another skill is your subject. You must know your subject very well. Like I gave an example of that doctor. He knows the subject of, infectious disease and COVID. And every time you look like you are confused and you listen to him, clarity comes because he knows his subject. And he articulates very well. Those who have listened to him, if you have listened to him, you will attest to this. He talks with a lot of clarity where that subject is concerned, and you are left with no confusion. So you must prepare, you must know your subject, you must be presentable. Maybe you are making a presentation somewhere, you must be presentable. People will choose to listen to what you are saying by how they see you. People will listen. People will say this guy has substance even before he says. You must be presentable. Even on the phone call, when we cannot see you, the other side, you must be presentable in your language, in your tone, and everything that we cannot see but we can feel. So those are briefly the skills I thought they were important just to highlight.
Wow. Ladies, Augustus and Martha, you have really chambered this subject. And to our listeners, this is just the beginning. I wish we had more time to continue delving deeper and deeper and deeper. I like the fact that, Augustus, you've brought about the issue of companies having to hire corporate communications officers to deal with the outside world. Even the governments do that nowadays. Then there are PR, because PR is basically communicating in a manner either what the company would like to give or what if there are misconceptions out there, what a company can be able to handle and to communicate effectively to those people. And when we talk about the skills that are needed for effective communication, I've heard both Augustus and Martha talk about effective listening, non-verbal communication, clarity and being concise in what you're talking about. Martha has talked about confidence. If you stand before people and you're not sure about yourself, you're not going to communicate effectively. You've got to be friendly. People have to perceive that what you're telling them is not adversarial. Otherwise, they will block you. mentally. You've got to be empathetic, because you're bringing across information that can be of help to the person, to the listener that is out there. Respect. You've got to be respectful in the way you come across, the way Augustus you've put it. And then there has to be a space for feedback, because communication cannot be one way. When you unasema, wengine wasikae wasikize. Now, yes. So thank you, Augustus and Martha, for the richness of the conversation that we've had today. That from an employee perspective, communicating effectively, as much as you may say, oh, this company, they don't talk nicely, oh, this and that and that. From an employee perspective, you've got to be ready to ask questions, to listen keenly, to have emotional intelligence, to understand what is it that is needed of me. How do I fit in? Probably this culture, the company I've come into is very formal. So hapa hakuna mahali pa kuleta jokes mingi na WhatsApp memes. No, you hold them to yourself. You come and do what you're required to do. You could enter into a company where the atmosphere is much more relaxed. But you still got to respect people, communicate effectively, clarify where you need to be, you need clarification, and be concise. I like the way Martha has brought about the Fortune 500 executives. Yeah, if you sit to listen to, I don't know, someone like Warren Buffett, or you listen to Dangote, the African. Let me put the African Fortune 500 person in there. Dangote is very simple. If you have looked a few clips about him, he's very quiet, very simple, answers, hard questions quietly, softly. But the few words have a lot of weight. So I guess that's what you're saying. And Martha, you can practice being a Fortune 500 executive.
Yeah.
by communicating concisely and simply, and listening, and interjecting where it needs to be. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our time is up. We have gone even past the time that I had hoped that we would do, but I presume that you've all been edified, and a bit of knowledge has been added as to coming to issues regarding to the workplace, to communication in the workplace. Augustus and Martha, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for taking time on a Saturday morning to come to a podcast and speak to the entrepreneurs, the executives, the people who are employed, who listen to us every morning, to give them a hint about what could. And ladies and gentlemen, to our listeners, these guests will still be here. We're hoping that next weekend and the other weekend, they'll still be here discussing the various facets of the employee experience into the workplace. But for now, we've come to the end of our podcast today. Thank you, our panelists, for the great insights that you've given us, and to our viewers for taking time to engage with us. We will continue bringing the same insights in different ways, in the coming weeks. You're welcome to give your suggestions and comments. And if you do have questions or whatever, kindly, you can get in touch with us via Facebook, via YouTube, via LinkedIn, via email. Everything is scrolling at the bottom of your screen. And even the topics that you'd like us to talk about, kindly send us suggestions that we can discuss them, because at Aurum Podcast we discuss everything that regards to the workplace, and especially in the HR aspect of the workplace. So with those few remarks, thank you for taking your time to be with us. Join us same time, same day, same place here at Aurum Consultants. We will be glad to be with you. I've been your host, Anthony Kuria. Have a nice weekend. God bless you.
God bless you too.